Welcome. If you're new to my channel, this is Basia Mosinski, and if you're new to my channel, you'll know that I've been doing a series of interview chats with different people from various backgrounds about a life-changing experience, an experience that's not just a fork in the road, making a decision to go one way or another, but really a change that is rather like a personal tsunami, something that really turns us upside down. And what I like to do is explore what that was, what happened to this person, but also like what helped to get them through, and then what they're creating now. So it's my pleasure to bring James Mayer onto this call. And James is a social worker, and you're out on the East Coast. And thank you for joining me here and being willing to open up and share your life-changing journey.
Thank you very much for having me. It's good to be here. Looking forward to our conversation.
Excellent. So you're a social worker on the East Coast, and what's your specialty?
My background has been in addiction treatment. Been a social worker for about 16 years, and it's been mostly my life mission to be involved in that arena of addiction treatment and bringing sobriety and recovery to people's lives.
So someone like you, a professional that I can really relate to, because I come from that background as well, of being in the helping professions. So, you know, a lot of people think, well, we've got our S together, you know, and, you know, that life doesn't happen. And we know that that's, you know, not always the case, that, you know, life is real, and it can help, you know, hit us at different times too. So what is it that happened, and when?
Sure. Yeah. And again, thank you for having me to share my experience. And you're right, as a clinician and as a person that is involved in, you know, guiding people in their lives, you know, behind the scenes, we do often have, you know, experiences that are really disruptive. And like you said, can shift our future in a big way. So, you know, I think the biggest life-changing event that I went through was not very long ago, which was the ending of marriage. And, you know, having worked in the field of, you know, therapy and being a clinician, you know, it's one of those, you know, you do well in your role to be available to people. And then you find yourself in the position where now you need to provide that to yourself. And it was a really overwhelming situation. And it was one that really called upon a lot of honesty and a lot of self-reflection for me, to recognize, you know, how I ended up in that situation. You know, some things are obviously out of our control, and it seems as if it was for the better for us, but it was a real, you know, turning point for me. And, you know, I have a child, and that was something that really caused me to face some very honest things with myself about, you know, what types of growth experiences I could ask of myself, you know, on the back end of that, you know, after that happened in my life, the divorce.
And how old's your little girl? And what a
Her name is Gianna, and she's my little
Gianna.
bestie. And she will be 5 in a number of weeks. Yeah, she's my little girl. She's a sweetheart.
Oh my gosh. I know we've tried to coordinate, and the number one reason each time we had to refigure when we were going to do this is Gianna. So your heart is in the absolutely best place, and makes me smile, because there's a couple of people that would, you know, that light up when they think about, you know,
very much.
Yeah, about that. So yeah.
And that was a big you know, factor in the levity of what occurred, was that she was a part of, you know, that situation. And, you know, recognizing that my self-care and my journey to pursuing my best self really was as much about me, but it was really about, you know, her, you know, and that's where my journey of, you know, change began. And, you know, she sort of became, well, not sort of became, but she ultimately became, you know, my inspiration and my why, you know, for, undergoing a transformation of sorts, which, is part of what we'll get into in our conversation.
Yeah. So what was that? What was that moment that you knew, you know what, I'm going in the wrong, like, okay, this has all happened, but now I need to do something. I need to put some things together.
Yeah, well, just like we had kind of alluded to earlier, being a therapist, for me, I had somewhat lost myself in the process of being availing myself to people in that capacity, which for us, self-care is, essential to being the people that we need to be for others. But at the same time, we can get so focused on, being available to people that we lose track of ourselves. And that happens to me. And the way that it really seemed to have affected me most was with my health, being, not having the greatest relationship with food, making choices that were, not consistent with, a caring relationship with myself, as far as not exercising, not making time, not valuing, myself as much as I valued the relationships I had as the therapist of my clients. And, I had that awareness that I didn't have the kind of energy I wanted every day. My self-esteem wasn't what I wanted it to be. My self-respect seemed to be lacking, and in large part just based on, the absence of a plan every day to put myself as a priority. And that was something that really became very apparent to me when I would have my daughter by myself, and she would want to be very active, and I would feel reticent to be, or I would feel hesitant to be. I was not who I wanted to be, and she deserved better, and I know that I deserve better. And that's how my journey began. So that was a number of months after the marriage ended, and that's when I started to address my health. And it's been the biggest shift that I could ever undergo. It's meant everything that I made that decision to pursue great health,
I think
physical and mental and emotional health. Yep.
you really touch on something that's so, a lot of things actually. The idea that, how do we comfort ourselves when we're going through something emotional that that we're either dealing with or we're trying to like just manage and get through. It's through sugar, caffeine, that kind of up and down to just kind of cope, another shot of sugar or carbs or whatever that is, to just get through the day. And then at the end, when you're there with your daughter, or in life, it's like, well, there's not enough energy to do what what you really want, what you're really committed to.
Wanting to be able to do more, but feeling like there's something lacking. I had mentioned I work in the field of addiction treatment, and I got, found recovery at the age of 23. And,
Congratulations.
that was undertaking and, very important decision I had made earlier in my life. And then I quit cigarettes in my life at one point. And, this sort of was like the last frontier in terms of something that I had resorted to, like you said, and so many of us can identify with comfort eating,
especially now we're in this COVID virus thing and quarantine and all of that, and
we're all overwhelmed, and we can't kind of find our way sometimes, and we lose ourselves sometimes in that experience of and the sugars and stuff. I mean, talk about addicting. You almost can't put it down, right? What do they say? You can't have just one. Was that Pringles or something like that?
Yeah.
But or Lay's potato chips. So I was
true.
stuck in a merry-go-round of poor choices with nutrition. Wanted so badly for so long. People say all the time, you got to want it, and I wanted it, and I didn't necessarily have a vehicle to get there, and I didn't have something of my own necessarily to tap into. I don't know. I just didn't seem to have the strength, and I got introduced to a community of really amazing people that have a certain type of lifestyle of nutritional cleansing and some systems that they use. And I kind of conceded that I needed more than what I was capable of doing myself, which was a really humble moment in my life to think that, because being successful in a lot of ways, having gotten sober, to acknowledge that I didn't have enough and I would need more and I would need to take direction and be teachable, was part of that really big shift. And I'm grateful that I somehow was able to, recognize the need to do that.
I think what you touch on too right here is the idea of structure and replacing. So when I was a psychotherapist in New York, I worked at an agency, and we used the harm reduction model. So finding something that is in place of, so that you're not just white knuckling it and having to just cut everything out, but you can have go-to things that are the replacements. And then
Hmm.
on the way, and this is what I found for myself, is on the way, then, really finding that commitment easy to make, and getting more and more solid in it.
Yeah, and the idea of having, onboarding, people that have, kind of been experienced in coming out of situations like that, what I was in, not divorce necessarily, but, kind of bringing about change in that area, and that could guide me and say, well, I identify with where you are. And therefore, I'm a great person to be able to latch onto as a coach or as a friend, and
Mm.
and support one another. That is so valuable. And I just notice in a lot of cases, not only as a therapist, in life in general, there's a lot of hesitance we have as people sometimes. It's really not a weakness to say, I need help, and to ask somebody to show you how they did it. And then, what's going on with me now is, having had a really amazing transformation, I guess I must have lost about 50 pounds and
Wow.
umpteen inches, and that's great. I think we get very transfixed on weight, but everything that I've gained has really been, and that's kind of the word gained. You think lose weight, but
Yeah.
gain,
Yeah. It's like the opposite, right?
self-respect and, my integrity back, like making commitment to yourself,
Mm.
and then following through was just game changing. And, where I want to go with this now is to be able to offer that and be the kind of person that people were to me, and to be a guide for others, because everybody deserves to feel their best, and sometimes people just don't know how to get that started.
Exactly,
Hmm.
exactly. Well, it's no accident that you and I are talking. We both have incorporated the same program into our
Hmm.
daily habits, and then also share that with others. So
Yes.
at the end of this, what I'll do on this YouTube is, I'd like to offer people a way to get in touch with you if they'd like to,
Sure.
and to reach out to you. And I'm just so grateful that you were able to join today, and in sharing, like, a life-changing thing, and
Yeah.
what helped you. And then in terms of your vision for yourself, I mean, you're standing in strength now, and
Mm.
your relationship with your daughter and your priorities seem to have just, gotten
Mhm.
aligned. So is there a glimpse of, like, something that you see on the horizon?
Yeah, well, I think I intend on, always remaining being a therapist, but, you know, uh, a part of how I became a therapist was having gone through my own tribulations with addiction. And so it was kind of a really meaningful transition to become a therapist and then offer solutions and partner with people. And I guess you might say, now that I have, overcome my compulsions with food, or however that needs to be said, I am truly inspired to, be a light for people, because, being in the depths of that, whether it's, depression, or just, being at odds with yourself,
Yeah.
we all need, the power of example, in our lives, to be able to, become who we think we really want to be. So, I want to be a certified health coach. So I've got some ambitions to actually get some more formal training.
Awesome.
And I want to be a millionaire with my company, not because of the money, but if I become a millionaire with my company, it means that I have gotten involved in countless people's lives, and that many people have gotten healthy as a result of the onboarding of their health and wellness into their lives. So network marketing is something that I've taken on as a path, and it's been very fulfilling, and it's very real. It's an awesome model of business, and I'm learning and I'm teachable, and that's where I'd like to see it go. But number one, remain healthy, remain standing in strength, and be an amazing father.
Awesome. Really great. Really great. Thank you so much for joining me. And I'll see you out there in the world
Absolutely.
of the
Take care,
internet.
everybody. Thanks for having me.
All right. Excellent. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.